Hello my keto peeps, it's Samaya and welcome back to my channel, I Don't Sugarcoat. Today, I'm going to show you guys how to make a buttermilk dinner roll. So let's get started. Before we begin, today's video is sponsored by Wholesome Provisions. They are a company located right here in the US and they specialize in making keto-friendly products, two of which are now staples in my keto kitchen, and that is their Lupin Flour and their allulose sweetener blend. Go on their website today and check out their catalog of products. They have an array of things from pre-made foods to baked. They have an array of items from pre-made goods to any kind. They have an array of products from pre-made goods to. Go on their website today and check out their catalog of products. I am certain there's something on there for everybody, from their pre-made goods to their baking needs. I'll leave a link to their website in the description of this video. Now let's jump into today's recipe. All right, so to begin this recipe, we're gonna be using our bread machine. I just really love using this thing. I find it super easy and convenient for making breads or even just whipping up my doughs. I just love using it. So I'm gonna be using that today. But if you don't have a bread machine, you can also use your stand mixer. You would just use the paddle attachment to whip up the, to mix the wet ingredients and to whip the dry ingredients into a ball of dough. And then once you have a ball of dough, you're gonna wanna switch to the dough hook and then knead for 8 minutes. So to do this in the bread machine, this is how we're gonna do it. In my cup here, I have 1 cup of what I like to call faux buttermilk, and I will leave a link to the recipe for that. And in here, I have added 2 tablespoons of some water. So I'm gonna be adding this to my bread pan, and this is at 130 degrees Fahrenheit. I use that temperature of water because I like to use the instant rise or the rapid rise yeast, and that is a temperature that is perfect for this type of yeast. Only use high temperature water like that with this particular type of yeast because this yeast likes it. Other yeast, it will kill it. So when you see me using water that high, it's because I'm using instant rapid rise yeast. So I have a tablespoon of this yeast and I'm going to be adding it to my milk here. Now to my yeast, I'm going to be adding 1 teaspoon of some honey. You can choose to skip this step. You don't necessarily need to proof instant yeast. However, I just like to do it. It's another one of those things that's force of habit when I use other types of yeast that require it. So you can do it if you want or not. Now I'm going to be adding in 1/4 of a cup of melted butter. And you want to let it cool just a little. You don't want to add it in when it's really hot because we're going to be adding in an egg and we don't want it to scramble our egg. To this, I'm adding my 1 egg, and you want to make sure you beat your egg first. And now to this, I have in here 1 teaspoon of some buttery sweet dough bakery emulsion. And the reason I use this sometimes for recipes where even I'm making something where the dough is not sweet, it just kind of gives it more of a bread taste. This is not going to make it sweet, at least not in my opinion. I don't feel like it's sweet at all, but it does help with flavor. So you can choose to skip this, but Lupin Flour and this wheat protein isolate, both of them have very distinctive tastes. So when you're cooking with them, you want to make sure you season or spice things well, so that way it tastes as close as it can be to what you're trying to, mimic. So because these are low carb flour options and we're trying to create something that tastes like the higher carb, its higher carb counterpart. We want to try to get it as close as possible. So that's why I add certain things. But you can skip that if you want and make it without it and see if you prefer the taste. Me personally, I don't like it without it, so that's why I add it. Okay, next I'm gonna pre-mix my dry goods together first before adding them to this. You don't necessarily need to do that, but I like to get all my ingredients nice and incorporated together, so that's why I'm gonna be pre-mixing them in a bowl before adding them to the wets. So here I have 3/4 of a cup of some Lupin Flour. I'm gonna be adding 1 cup of some wheat protein isolate, the 8,000 version. To this, I'm gonna be adding 2 tablespoons of some Vital Wheat gluten. Next, I'm gonna be adding 2 tablespoons of some buttermilk powder, or powdered buttermilk rather. And this also is about adding flavor. I'm gonna be adding 2 tablespoons of this allulose sweetener blend. This is not gonna make the rolls sweet. As I said, this is really just helping to make it taste more like a regular roll that you would find. I have 3 teaspoons and 3 teaspoons of some baking powder and 1 teaspoon of salt in this bowl. And now I'm going to give this a whisk. Okay, now we want to go ahead and pour this on top of our wet ingredients. And now we're going to pop this into our bread machine. And on my Breville bread machine here, I am going to select the dough option, and you are going to want to do the same thing on yours. Now, my machine allows me to customize my options. So if you have a bread machine that allows you to do that, awesome. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to skip the rise. You don't want it to rise. So I am going to make it so that my bread does not rise at all, because that's not what I want it to do. I just want it to mix this, and then I'm going to take it out and shape them into balls and then let them rise on their own. I don't want the machine to do it for me. So once I do that, it's going to work its magic for the next 30 minutes, getting my dough all nice and mixed together. And once it's done, then I'll come back and we will go ahead and move on to the next step. My dough is done, and so now I've weighed it and I've split it into 9 equal rolls, and they weigh roughly 81 grams a piece. And now all you want to do is kind of work the dough a little bit, and it's kind of tacky. The filling of it, it's a little tacky, but that's fine. So you just want to kind of roll them around in your hand like this. And I like to flip it over just to see if there's anywhere where the dough might be open, and I just pinch them closed, and then I just roll them back in my hand like this. And I try to get as smooth of a top as I can, and then I'm gonna place it in a round cake pan like so. Okay, now I'm gonna just keep going until all of my dough is done and in this pan here. So my rolls are all nice and rolled out. They're in my pan like so. And I'm just gonna take some saran wrap here, and I'm going to spray it with a little bit of some avocado oil. And then I'm going to set these in my oven. I have it on the proof setting, and I'm gonna let these proof for about 30 minutes to an hour. They really don't take that long to proof and double in size. So even if you're letting them sit at room temperature, it might take a little bit longer. Or if you have the bread box that you guys have seen me use a couple of times, put it in there, and it really shouldn't take too long. I'm sorry if you can hear that noise in the background. My dog is eating. I tried to get him to stop. He won't. So sorry if you can hear him crunching on his food. Okay, so this is going in the oven. I will come back after these. You know what? Let's just go ahead and talk about the cook time and everything now. We're going to have these cook at 375 for roughly 20 to 25 minutes. So I'm going to let these rise. I will let you see how big they get, and then I'll bake them. So if you're using If you're letting them rise on your counter or in the microwave, or if you're using a bread proofing box, you can go ahead and just set your stove to 375 now and get it preheating, because as I said, these don't proof that long. So I'm gonna go ahead and get mine in the oven and we'll be back when they're ready. As you can see, my rolls have risen beautifully. They've doubled in size. They look amazing. They have filled out my pan here. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna stick these in the oven at 375 degrees, and I'm gonna let these bake for about 20 to 22 minutes. At that point, I have some butter back here on my stove in a pot. It's 4 tablespoons of butter. And then I have 2 tablespoons of this Surkin syrup right here. And I'm going to brush my rolls with this. Now, if you don't want your rolls to have a sweet topping, then just skip the syrup and you don't have to add that to it. And you can just brush it with some butter. Or if you want, you can do an egg wash. I'll leave that up to you. So go ahead and get yours put in the oven, 375 for 20 to 25 minutes, then brush them and we'll come back when they're ready. My rolls are out and they look and smell amazing, you guys. Now, one thing to be mindful of is if you use the Surkin Gold Syrup in your butter that you top them with, you're gonna wanna be mindful of the browning. I completely forgot about that. And so mine's got a little bit darker than what I would normally like, but it's completely fine. They're still gonna taste great. They look amazing and they smell heavenly. Now, these just came out, so they're super hot. I did end up baking mine for a grand total of 35 minutes. They seemed like they needed a little bit of extra time. I'm not sure why. I believe the last time I made these, it was like around 22 to 25 minutes. Maybe it's because I used more butter on the top. I'm not sure. But I ended up going for 35 minutes. So it's possible that if you use too much butter like I did, you might need to cook yours a little bit longer as well. So I'm gonna try this on camera for you guys. This is super hot still, just out. That is so good. All I want is to have this with some delicious chicken or beef, and I am set to go. These are amazing, and it's not super sweet at all. Like I told you, all you're getting is just that little hint of sweetness from the butter, but that's it. The inside of the roll is not sweet at all. The inside tastes great. All those little additions that I added helps with masking the taste of the Lupin Flour and that wheat isolate protein. So I would suggest you adding all of that stuff the very first time you make it. And if there's something that you don't like, then try removing it then. But that's it, you guys. And I'll tell you now, I believe these rolls are like 2.1 net carbs each for per roll. So that is a great carb count to be able to enjoy a roll this size. So that's all I've got for you today. These are my keto dinner. These are my keto dinner rolls. So now I've given you 2. You can make the Hawaiian version or you can just make these plain versions. I like to eat these with dinner or with breakfast. They go with everything. If you don't like rolls with your breakfast, I also just put out a biscuit recipe and I will link that in this corner up here so you guys can check that out if you like. So that's gonna be it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button for me. If you want to see me make more videos like this, don't forget to click the subscribe button and don't forget to ding that little bell so you can get notifications every time I upload a new video. And until next time, you guys, bye.